This is one of the first instant print cameras with a selfie camera on it, the Instax Liplay Plus. Now the Instax Liplay range of cameras are basically a hybrid range of Instax cameras, operating as both a digital camera and a printer. So you can take as many digital photos as you want, and from those, select which ones you want to print off from the exact same camera, anytime, anywhere. Now the Instax Liplay Plus is obviously an improvement on the Liplay, and it does have a number of new accessories and additions that makes it the most practical Instax camera yet. So let's jump into what makes this camera so special. Well, as I said, this camera does have a selfie camera attached to it. So I don't know about you, but 90% of us do like to take selfies with our families and friends, and with a lot of Instax cameras, it is a bit difficult to actually take selfie photos with a camera where you can't even see the screen. So with this selfie camera, obviously now you can actually see the screen and take the guesswork out of taking what's probably one of the most common types of photos nowadays. So this selfie camera here, I do find it does actually operate just as quickly as the front camera. So the auto exposure works just fine, the autofocus works great, stabilization is perfect, and of course if you do want to switch between the front or the selfie lens, you do have a switch button just above the power button. So all in all, the selfie camera button is great, welcome addition, really cool, and probably the coolest thing about the Liplay Plus. What's also new about this camera is the grip has been slightly adjusted, so the grip is a little bit bigger, but it's nothing too drastic, and I would still recommend getting a hand grip strap to attach to this camera, as I found that even when I'm running around this camera, I still feel worried I'm going to drop it, so having that hand strap would give me that extra bit of security. So make sure you get a hand strap to protect this camera. Next thing that's new about this camera is it also used to have a sound button on the front of the camera. Now, this basically is a button where when you take a photo, it will record up to 10 seconds of sound to attach to the photo in the form of a QR code. Now, I always found this button to be oddly placed. It was like placed here while the shutter button was placed here. So they've now removed the sound button and put the sound ability in its own mode inside the camera. So I don't miss this button, it's honestly just gone. You do also have missing the free mode buttons on the side of the camera. So if you had custom filters and frames set to your photos, that mode is no longer available on the camera. I'm missing that a bit, but otherwise nothing too drastic. The camera has just been more practically designed. Now, like the original Liplay, this camera does use a micro SD card, and you can get a crazy amount of photos into this SD card, so that's not an issue there. You do also have a USB-C port to charge the camera, and in terms of the battery life, I did find the camera lasted at most maybe an hour and a half before going flat, but fortunately it does only take up to 2 hours to fully charge this camera again. So while it does drain a little quickly, it also charges very quickly as well. So I do recommend getting yourself a power bank if you do plan on using this camera for like a 6-hour day. Now jumping into the modes of this camera. Now the normal mode is the first mode, and all the features in the normal mode are consistent across every other mode inside this camera. So first you have the filter ability, where basically you can put a filter over your photos, so you can have sepia, black and white, vivid, stuff like that. And you do also have an option to put frames. Now, frames are these custom sort of frames that you put on the photos after taking the photo. Now, if you are worried about ruining a perfectly good photo with a poor choice of frame, fortunately what this camera does do is it does duplicate the photo when you put a frame on it. So you'll have the original photo with no frames, and then you'll have a new photo with the frame on it. So don't worry, the original photo still exists. Other modes this camera has is it does have a sound print mode, and basically this is where when you take a photo, it will record audio while taking that photo. So let's say you're with friends out at a party, it'll take a photo of your friends and record audio of their music and all the cheering in that moment. Then when you print the photo, it will have a QR code attached to that photo, where if people record that, they will get a digital copy of the photo with the audio playing over the top. So that's a pretty cool little feature as well. You do also have a sound print album mode, which works the same way as a sound print mode. And basically this is where you get multiple sound print photos and combine them into a little animation. So you'll have a little slideshow that goes through each photo with its attributed sound. So you can have some cool little features there. And of course, when you print that photo off, you do have a QR code attached to one of those photos as well, which will also give people a digital copy of that animation with the sound playing as well. And finally, you do have a layered mode photo feature, which is my favorite one here, where basically the camera will use the front camera to take a background photo and the selfie camera to take a selfie photo in the foreground. So you'll have the background as sort of its own customized frame, and the middle of the photo being basically your face or whatever the selfie camera picked up. So this is pretty cool. It does actually give your photos a bit of a theme and context. So It does help you get a bit creative, and you can do some interesting stuff with that when you utilize the background and the foreground together. So that's a cool little feature here in the camera. Now, in terms of the auto functions on this camera, no real complaints. Stabilization looked fantastic. Autofocus was really responsive. The auto flash would kick in cases where a majority of the image was dark, so you could have a dark room with a bright window and the auto flash would kick in, and I can turn the auto flash off, so no complaints there. Only little nitpick I had was with the auto exposure. That worked a majority of the time, but sometimes if, say, I was pointing at a very bright sky or somewhere where a lot of the image was bright, the auto exposure would get thrown off a bit and not know what to do. So I would go to adjust it with a manual exposure, and I found that to honestly be very finicky. So I had to go into the menu and then set it to adjust the manual exposure every time. So I wasn't a fan of that. I would have liked a manual exposure adjustment button on the camera itself, like a physical button. So that's a bit of a little negative there, but otherwise the camera's auto functions work great and do get you great photos a majority of the time. Now, speaking of great photos, the print quality of these photos is a lot closer to what you see in digitally. So the dynamic range, the colors are more accurate in the print when compared to the digital photo. So there's a lot more closeness there. And honestly, these photos aren't 4K high-res images. You're not getting these as sort of sharp professional, product or wedding photos, but they are just have this soft, natural retro look, and it is just a nice memento to have. And you get it on a camera that prints photos faster than anything else. So that's the Instax Liplay Plus. Bit of a quick video, but we just wanted to really jump into what makes this camera so special. What do you think of this camera? Let me know in the comments below.